Man, this episode had me all over the place. Let's talk, y'all. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to KRS TV. This is your boy Kenny, and this is the Haves and the Have-Nots Season 7, Episode 15, and the name of this episode is Tomorrow's Not Promised. All I will say is that this was a filler episode. I'm going to try my best not to make this a long review because not much really happened, but things are being set up. So the episode picks up where it left off. At the hospital, you got Madison and Keisha. Keisha gets word that there's an emergency that happened. There was a shooting that happened at Spanish Marsh Trail, and they're rushing the people to the hospital. Immediately, Madison is panicking because he knows that's where Justin, aka Glenn Close, lives, and he knows that Jeffrey's stupid ass was over there. So he tries to reach David because he's thinking the worst. He tries to reach David. He's not able to get David. But then Keisha calls Veronica because Veronica is on Jeffrey's records. He gets on the phone with Veronica and lets her know that, look, there was a shooting and you need to just get down to the hospital. So, and we saw that she had just pulled up to her house and now she's en route to the hospital. Then he finally reaches David and tells David he needs to get to the hospital ASAP because there was a shooting, in that area where Justin lives. So immediately when Veronica gets to the hospital, there's people at the counter. She literally pushes the people aside and starts talking to Keisha, saying that, so is my son okay? And Keisha's like, well, we don't know anything yet. She says, well, aren't you the one that called me? I mean, because normal protocol was that it should have been the doctor to reach out to them. But Madison immediately thinks that something happened with Jeffrey, so he immediately just jumped on it, which I don't blame him. I mean, have you seen Glenn Close and the craziness that Glenn Close has been doing? I would immediately think the worst as well. So then we finally see that David finally shows up. And David's like, well, what's going on? And he says, we don't know anything yet. He says, well, why did you call me? And he was saying that there's a shooting at Spanish Marsh Trail. And immediately Veronica was like, whose address is that? What the hell is going on? And all of a sudden, she kind of looks at David, and then her and David go back and forth. And she's like, see, I knew that he was over there with that homosexual girl, and here it is, you did nothing. I told you we should have got that boy in line. And he's pretty much telling Veronica, now is not the time. And she's like, oh yeah, now is the time. So they see this man coming in from emergency. He's on a stretcher, and they immediately think it's Jeffrey. And David's like, I'm gonna kill that son of a bitch. So then we get a scene after that. We get a scene with Mitch and his cousin. His cousin is such a douchebag. I can't stand his dumb ass because he's so arrogant. But obviously, it's like, what the fuck do you do, bruh? Because it seemed to me that you just sitting around talking shit, but you don't really handle business. He up early in the fucking morning drinking beer for breakfast, and he asks about, and Mitch comes in and asks about Uncle Vinny, and he was like, well, he ain't here. But hey, I'm here having breakfast and shit. And, which was a beer. And then he pretty much, and Mitch tells him that he's going to go meet with the Cryers, meaning Jim Cryer. And then he's like, oh yeah, because, you need to get that $50,000. He says that I got it handled. And he says, and what about that black kid, talking about Benny. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, he wants that money, right? He owes, $20,000. We need that money. And Mitch is like, look, he's going to take care of it, all right? He's like, it's kind of funny that he got $8 million in his account, but he can't actually pay his debt. What kind of bullshit is that? And he said, now look, I got it handled. And he says that, look, Uncle Vinny was drunk last night and he was talking crazy. So you need to hurry up and get that money, and you need to get it now. And he told him, I got it under control. So pretty much we got, he wants $50,000, in regards to to that whole situation with Wyatt. And then he also wants $20,000, which is the interest of the money that Benny borrowed with his dumbass. So we got that going on over there. And then all of a sudden, we see that back at the hospital, Veronica and David are talking, and she's like, again, I told you, and what's that boy's address? And he tells her Spanish Marsh Trail, and she's like, oh yeah. And what's the apartment? What's the house number? And he said 7. And she was like, and he's like, why do you want this information? She says, I want to go there to see what actually happened, and I want to get all the evidence so that I can put that bastard homosexual away for life, And then he pretty much is kind of saying, like, Veronica, do you realize that our son right now is in ER and he may not make it? And she says that he will make it because he's a fighter just like his mama, unlike you letting him go over there to be with those people. And I was like, bitch, what do you mean those people? And then she starts saying they are wicked, they're evil, and destruction and death follows them. And do you know a lot of them are on crystal meth? And that's all they're good for is disease and death. I'm like, oh bitch, really? She just went on this big homophobic rant, and I'm like, you giving Leviticus right now, bitch, but at the end of the day, you're probably wearing mixed fabrics, and I'm pretty sure when you and David used to go out to dine, in your gourmet restaurants, I'm pretty sure you was sucking on some lobster tails, and you probably had a shrimp cocktail as an appetizer, bitch. So, bitch, don't come for the children, because we will be happy to see you and send you to hell where you belong. Mean ass. And she just kept saying, oh, they're sodomites, and you allowed this, and all this shit. And we just see that David's face, he wants to choke the living life out of her ass. Because David's to the point where he's had it up to here with her ass, but right now he's containing it, because you just saw his face like, bitch, I ought to fuck you up. I mean, that was the face that he was giving. And then next thing you know, she was like, she begins to threaten David that, if my son doesn't make it, mark my words. And then next, we see that Madison comes in, he's sobbing, and he says that, the guy in ER, he didn't make it. And they all think it's Jeffrey. And all of a sudden, she turns her focus off of David onto Madison. And and what she did to him, Madison should have slapped the dog shit out of her, because she was so out of line. And she's like, why do you people lie so much? You lie about everything. It's in your DNA. And then she starts sniffing him. It's like, the smell of disgust is on you. And yeah, you a lie. And then we see that Madison is very emotional right now. She's like, oh, don't cry over my boy, because he's not dead. And then she grabs him by his face and was like, liar. And then walks out. I'm like, oh, Veronica is going to get hers. Like, seriously. But we see that definitely pissed Madison off. I'm like, Madison, you should have slapped the shit out of her, because she was so out of line and disrespectful. And then we see that David sits down and he just breaks down because he thinks that Jeffrey's dead. So then at the Cryer mansion, we see that Wyatt is all geeked out with his junky ass, waiting for damn RK to come back. And he's been calling and hasn't been able to, well, actually, he's been trying to get in touch with him. So what he does is that he calls the emergency service to get the number to the car. And we see that RK is down in the hood, stunting and perpetrating and shit like, yeah, I got this new ride, I'm rolling, look at my new whip, and he's hanging out with 2 of his boys and shit, and he in the car just talking all this shit, and then all of a sudden, he hears the phone ring, and then, he pretty much answers it, and he's like, hello, and then all of a sudden, Wyatt's like, you lying son of a bitch, you need to get your ass over here. And he's like, you got my money? And he was like, look, you better get your ass over here, or my dad is going to report the car stolen, so you need to hurry up. And he's like, look, I I tried to get your stuff, but I had to wait till tomorrow. He's like, no, fuck that. You need to get it now, and you need to hurry up. And if my dad reports it's called stolen, you don't want to be riding dirty, so you need to get over here and get my shit. I'm like, he ain't got no damn drugs with your stupid junkie ass. Oh, why it gets on my nerves. So he says, okay, fine, I'm on my way. And then he's like, man, the daggone car got a phone like that? Spaceship. I'm like, no, boo-boo, it's money. Something you clearly don't have, RK. So then we get a scene with Jim and Catherine. Jim is being really obnoxious because Catherine's hungover. He slams the door. He's talking loud to her and everything. And then he tells her that, that little boy that you came home with last night stole your car. And she's like, shit, I'll get another one. I don't give a fuck. And then he tells her, you know what? You have always been stupid when it comes to money. And she's like, no, I'm smart because I have money. You're stupid because you don't have any, and the stupidest thing I ever did was marry your ass. And he was like, no, baby. That's the smartest thing you did because I keep you in money. I have always been the brand to protect your money. Hello, have you not forgotten you trying to give $8 million to Hannah? And he's like, and she's like, yeah, and yeah, I did. And he's like, no, you didn't. Because she's going to give that money back. And he's like, look, she's going to give the money back, all right? She's not going to keep it. And he's like, she better. And he says, won't you get up and take a shower? You smell like a daycare. I was like, damn. Like, Jim was just really going in. And she's like, yeah, and won't you take a hike over a cliff? And she gets up and goes to the bathroom. Then Wyatt comes in and lets him know that someone's here. And it's a Malone, and it so happens to be Mitch. So Mitch and Jim go outside. So Jim goes outside to talk to Mitch. They go back and forth, and Mitch is there to try to negotiate a truce. And he says that, look, I want to keep the peace. And, and then at first you see that Jim was trying to be in denial, trying to play those games like, well, how do you know Wyatt was there? I mean, what proof do you have? And he says his name is on the damn receipt. So we got proof that Wyatt was there at the time when this attack happened. So we know everything. And he pretty much says that and he pretty much says that, look, we want $75,000. And I know why he's asking for $75,000. So not only can he give them the $50,000 to his uncle, but also the $20,000 to bail out Benny. And pretty much he was saying that, that's pretty steep. And he says that, look, you really don't have much of a choice. I mean, do you want Mama Rose to find out that your son attacked her son? It's going to be chaos. Yeah, because y'all remember when Ward, shot up the hotel and Mitch was there. For the fact that he even shot in Mitch's direction, she had that motherfucker Ward dealt with. So imagine that the fact that that Jim Cryer's son attacked her son. Oh yeah, there's gonna be straight World War III up in Savannah. So so pretty much they go back and forth with that. And he was saying, okay, I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you once I get it. He's like, I'm gonna wait right here. You need to give it to me right now. And he's like, look, I can just write you a check. He says, no checks, cash only. And he's saying that, so this is the kind of game you guys gonna play, the blood for blood. I'm like, that's the game they always play, Jim. But he says that that's the game we play, but I'm trying to keep the peace. And you need to get it today, like immediately. And he tells him okay, and that he'll reach back out to him once he got it. So then when Jim goes inside, he gets into it with Wyatt's ass. And then he asks him, how much money did you spend when you was down at the Iron Bone? He was saying that, what does it matter? I wouldn't be in the situation if you hadn't took my money. And he's like, first of all, I took that money for your own damn good and all of this shit. And he was like, I should let them have your ass. And he's like, well, fine. I don't care. I mean, but we wouldn't be in this situation if you hadn't took my money. And then all of a sudden Jim was like, how did I raise such a loser? Such a, such a failure. And, here it is. I'm crawling out of a pile of shit. And then you always create another pile of shit for me to go into. And he says that you're going to have even worse shit happen if you don't give me my motherfucking money back. I'm like, yo, Jim, he's low-key threatening you because he has a plan. Remember the fucking rifle. He got it set up somewhere. None of them don't even know that that rifle is there but him. So Jim right now is doing all this shit, not realize he got a junkie who's a loose cannon that's ready to shoot y'all up. And then he pretty much says that so pretty much he lets him know that, look, you're gonna have a bigger mess if you don't give me my money back, and go to hell. And Jim was like, I'll go to hell, but you ain't getting the money back. And then he starts going on, and like, damn, Wyatt's like, keep talking. I'm like, oh shit, he's about to do something crazy. And we already know that, yeah, he got that gun on standby and he's ready. So then at the Artesian Hotel, we see that Broderick meets Scott. Remember, Scott is working at the Attorney General's office. He's the assistant to the Attorney General, and he's also an FBI agent. So Broderick, as soon as he meets him, gets uneasy because Broderick is the head of that prostitution ring in the hotel. The prostitution ring that Catherine told him to shut down, but yet he's still running low-key. And pretty much what ends up happening is that Scott, pulls up a picture of Candace and asks, did he know her? And he told her no. And we can see already that Scott is vicious, he's arrogant, and he's a fucking bully. Because next thing you know, we just see that he starts to punk the living shit out of Broderick. And then all of a sudden he lets him know that, yeah, I'm an FBI agent as well. So I can tell when someone's lying. So I ask, do you know her? And he again denied that he knew Candace. So he gets on the phone. He's like, oh yes, I need information about Broderick Massey. Well, legal name is Mikado. And like Broderick's like, who you calling? He's like, I'm calling Homeland Security because he's an illegal immigrant. The only person that knew this information was Catherine, because Catherine used it on him earlier. So now you got this FBI agent reading him his rights, and he was like, look, I know her, but am I gonna be deported? And he says, well, that depends on what you give me. So next thing you know, he takes him to the he says that the first step is I need a trail of her interactions here. So he says, where's the surveillance room? So they go to the surveillance room. They look at all the information, and he literally gets the full scoop of the fact that not only does he know Candace, but they have some, underground business thing going on, and he picks up on it. And he pretty much belittles Broderick and says that, look, you're going to tell me what I want to know or you're going to get arrested. I'm going to take you down. But he's like, I thought you were here for Candace. He's like, I'm here for everything. So, if you don't want to go down with this, you need to start talking, and you need to tell me what I need to know. I've seen everything. He knew about his relationship with Catherine because they saw that on the security cameras. They also know about Candace and him working together. So this asshole decides to tell everything. He says that Candace is the head of the prostitution ring. He names RK as well as Rocky, and that all of them are in cahoots working together. At first, Scott was thinking that Catherine was involved. He says, no, Catherine's loaded. This is like play money for her. She ain't involved in this. She doesn't even know what's going on. When yet, Catherine actually does. And Catherine, in her mind, thinks the shit is shut down, but Broderick has still been running it. So that shit went down, and I'm like, wow, they are really about to get some ammunition to take down Candace. And it's just going to get crazier from here on. So then we see that back in D.C., I was wrong on my last episode when I said that Candace and Charles were at the Artesian. They're not. They're still in D.C. They're just at a hotel in D.C. Probably up in Northwest somewhere. Posh. So they're pretty much in a hotel room, and they said that they're about to go to Charles's house, and because they're about to move into the White House soon. And he goes out and looks out the window. She's like, so what's on your mind? And he's like, America, because now he's about to be the commander-in-chief. And she says that, yeah, I look forward to going to your house because it tells you a lot about a person. And he says that, oh yeah, and that moment, when in that moment you purr. And he's like, purr? Yeah. She's like, yeah, purr like a little cat. He's like, girl, I'm a lion. He's like, a baby lion, a Kuna Matata. So they had that little cute moment. Then all of a sudden, one of his advisors show up, and he says he needs to talk to him in private. So Candace, steps out, and they go back and forth, and he lets him know that, look, this woman, Lisa, at the Times, because remember on the previous episode, the FBI agent told Scott to call Lisa to leak the story about Candace. And he said, so pretty much, he says that Lisa at the Times is about to do a story on Candace. It's not a good one. And that Landon is up in New York trying to stop it to get it killed. But yet the story is still going to run. And he lets him know that word is that she has, several high profile men that she has blackmailed and damaged. And, and that her cover was blown when they saw her on television. And problems are now starting to arise. And then, Charles is being very nonchalant. He's like, man, Landon will take care of it. He's like, I don't think so. First of all, I know how Lisa works. I know her well. And first of all, then he shows him a picture of Scott. He's the assistant to the attorney general. And he says that, look, he spoke to the president. So he's the one making all the trouble here. And yeah, because he's right now in Savannah digging up dirt, and he's literally punking the hell out of Broderick, and Broderick is singing like a canary and shit. So pretty much the advisor tells Charles, you need to get her out of here, and the longest we're attached to her, we're going to get caught up in this mess, and you don't need this. And he pretty much is saying that, look, Landon will handle it. He's like, there's nothing Landon can do. This can really get nasty. And he's like, look, I hear you, but I don't want her to go. And he says, let me know when you get a hold of Landon and make sure the plane is ready. And the guy leaves. And so then when Candace comes back, he, in his mind, knows the heat is getting real, and that Candace could possibly take him down, with this whole thing coming out. And he decides to take a shower, and she said, I'll join you. He was like, oh no, I just need some time alone. Just need some time to think. So she lets him. And then while he's taking a shower, she gets a call from Benny. And Benny's like, oh yeah, I saw the news. And, so what's up with you and this president guy? Y'all dating? And she was like, yeah, it looks like it. And he tells her to be careful. And then she asked, did mom see it? She's like, yeah, mom saw it. But he says, mom's been acting real funny lately. I think it's about that dude that she was dating, talking about Derek. But he says, I'm going to get to the bottom of it. Yeah, and it's a lot more sinister than you think, Benny. And then Benny had asked Candace, does he know? And she says, he knows everything. But he's like, but I'm glad you got out of that. And then he asked her, does she have any money? Of course, she told him no. Hannah says hi and all that. And they get off the phone. And then then afterwards we see a scene with Hannah and Benny. She pretty much tells him that, get your ass dressed. We about to go to the bank. We're giving them the money back. And he's like, but come on. He's like, no, we're going to give them the money back. And Catherine is letting me borrow the interest on the money to pay off the debt. And he's like, oh, wow, that's great. That's great. That's good. I'm like, oh, hell yeah, your ass scared. You know damn well that the mob got a hit on your ass and you can get taken out any minute. And your ass should have never borrowed the money in the first place. And you didn't even use the fucking money. Ass. So, but then she says, but you gonna help me pay this money back. And then she says, you better not borrow money from people like that no more. And all of a sudden we hear the doorbell, and it's Derek. And she says, no. She's pretty much stops Benny, and he's like, yo, what's going on with this dude? And she's like, look, ain't nothing going on. I just don't want to talk to him. But he was like, but he's been blowing up your phone all day. Yeah, and she's like, I don't care. And he's like, what's really going on, Mom? And he's like, it's nothing. She's like, he's just not the man I thought he was. And then all of a sudden, he gets all hyped. He's like, see, I knew something was wrong about him. You should listen to me. I told you something went right about him. And then he was like, yo, what did he do? Tell me what he do. And she pretty much tells him to go get dressed. He's like, okay, fine, I'll go get dressed. But if his ass still at that door by the time I get down, he gonna see me. And I mean that. And she's like, just get your ass upstairs and get dressed, Benny. So it's like she has not yet revealed the truth about Derek. And I am just waiting for that to come out. I'm waiting for Candace to find out. Because that's gonna be the one of the shockers of the season. So then we're back at the hospital. You know, we definitely see that Madison is shaken up. We find out that the black guy who was brought in died, and the other one is not. The white guy, he's in the ER, so he's completely shaken up. But then Keisha says that, look, the next of kin has to identify the body. So all of a sudden, we see that Madison goes over to Dave and lets him know that we have to go identify the body and everything. And then all of a sudden, they go to the damn... They end up going, to identify the body, and they reveal the sheet, and David was like wailing, and then all of a sudden he stopped. And I'm like, so you mean to tell me it wasn't even Jeffrey there? So now all this shit is going to come back on Madison, because Madison just out of panic told them they need to get to the hospital, that there was a shooting, which there was. But then all of a sudden we see that Veronica goes to Spanish Moss Trail. She opens the door, and then we see that somebody's at the door. So I'm like, oh, what's really fucking going on? Like, how the hell did this even happen? And what the fuck does all of this mean? Like, well, obviously it means that Jeffrey's not dead. And from the looks from the clip from next week, it's Justin that's at the door. So I'm like, how the hell did this happen? Because last time we saw the two of those dumb bitches, guns were blazing and they both fell. So how the hell are they okay? Like, yeah, you have some explaining to do, Tyler, with that one, because that shit was crazy. I mean, and then also I forgot to mention this, when Scott and Broderick was in the was in the surveillance room, he had asked him, so y'all running this whole prostitution ring, so what was the code word? And he was saying that the code word was whiskey on the rocks with a beer chaser and a lime and mint muddled. So that was kind of like their secret key to let them know about, pretty much for them to connect with each other as far as like setting up the tricks and all that shit. So it's like Broderick just literally gave up every damn thing. So that's what I have, y'all. If I missed anything, put it down in the comments. I'd love to talk to you about it. But yeah, this was a filler episode. Not really much happened, but I can honestly say there are some detonators that are about to go off, and it's going to be insane. So subscribe to my channel. Click that bell so you get notifications every time I drop a video. Also, follow me on all of my social platforms. I have them all listed in the description box. Also, like this video, comment on this video, and share this video. And I'll be back with the next episode of The Haves and the Have-Nots. So until next time, everybody, take care.